First of all, thanks for having me. My name is John Licciardello. I'm the Managing Director at the Ecosystem Development Fund at the IOTA Foundation. The IOTA Foundation is the organization behind the distributed ledger technology IOTA, which is based on the TANGLE. You can think of it as Bitcoin is to blockchain what IOTA is to the TANGLE. To start, I will introduce you all to the new digital era, which is emerging, then give a little background on IOTA and how the TANGLE technology on which it is based is an improvement over blockchain. Then I will describe the Ecosystem Development Fund for which I'm responsible. IHS Markit, one of the world's leading research and advisory companies, forecasts 75 billion connected things will be in use by 2025, or roughly 10 internet-enabled devices for every single person on the planet. The current model, where all these connected things connect to centralized cloud database silos, will simply not scale to enable the staggering amounts of data these devices will collectively produce and depend on. Additionally, data is already arguably the world's most valuable resource. Consider this: the world's 5 most valuable companies in the world, Apple, Alphabet, the parent company of Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Microsoft, are all primarily in the business of collecting, storing, analyzing, and selling data. The oil titans of the 20th century have been usurped by the data titans of the 21st century. But there are still some unanswered questions about this new digital era. How can we trust the data? Who owns the data? If all these devices will collectively produce and depend on too much data to rely on centralized cloud database silos, where's it all going to go? Enter distributed ledger technologies. Bitcoin was the first of its kind. Based on the blockchain, it was the first time a decentralized, distributed, and permissionless set of nodes could trustlessly come to consensus on a set of data, in the case of Bitcoin, transaction data. In a blockchain, miners are incentivized to append the next block to the chain with transaction fees and block rewards. Which miner gets to add the next block is determined by a fair and decentralized lottery-like system known as proof of work, where miners must exert computational resources to solve a cryptographic puzzle. The only way to solve this puzzle is by guessing and checking. And currently, the miners of the Bitcoin blockchain alone collectively produce over 20 million trillion guesses per second, an absolutely staggering number in an all-out arms race to win the next block. This slide depicts how transactions get included into blocks in the blockchain architecture. Miners are incentivized with these block rewards and transaction fees, and this is part of the consensus mechanism. Because there's limited real estate in each block, miners are incentivized to include transactions which pay the highest fees. Moreover, because blocks are mined on average in discrete time intervals, 10 minutes for Bitcoin, there's a direct trade-off between how quickly blocks can get mined and how many blocks deep it takes before you can consider a transaction safely immutable. It's important to note that these are features, not bugs, of the blockchain architecture. The transaction fees incentivize the miners to produce the proof of work, and the slow block confirmation times is how consensus is ultimately achieved. This is the blockchain bottleneck. The TANGLE is just a different kind of distributed ledger technology. In the TANGLE, each transaction, which may include data or be a transfer of value, approves 2 previous transactions, which approve 2 previous transactions of their own, and so on, all the way back to the very first transaction. In the TANGLE, every user has an equal role and responsibility in the system. In order to issue a transaction in TANGLE, you are required to prove 2 previous transactions and do a little bit of proof of work. Your motivation for doing this is that if you play by the rules, and you prove 2 previous transactions, and you do your proof of work, your transaction will be approved by some subsequent transaction. Thus, all of the roles and responsibilities in the system are perfectly aligned. Because there's no bifurcation of miners and users, such as it is with the blockchain, transactions actually scale. More transactions equals more validations, and because there's also no miners, there are no transaction fees, and this is the most important point. The entire vision behind IOTA is to enable the machine economy, in order for all of these millions and billions of devices to effectively share resources and come to consensus on some set of data, whether it be transaction data or any other arbitrary set of data, you need a protocol, as the former speaker was noting, for them to be able to come to consensus. So now that I've talked a little bit about IOTA and how the TANGLE technology is an improvement over blockchain, I'll spend a little bit of time describing the Ecosystem Development Fund, for which I'm responsible. To give a little history about IOTA, IOTA began as a grassroots effort. Co-founders David Sunstaba, Dominic Schiener, Sergey Popov, and Sergey Ivanchiklo, all very experienced in the blockchain space, developed the ideas behind the TANGLE and IOTA and organized an initial coin offering, or an ICO, in late 2015, raising about $500,000 worth of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And without any pre-allocation to any of the founders or the developers, the entire IOTA supply, which remains fixed because there are no miners or block rewards, was distributed pro rata to the ICO investors on the initial transaction. Subsequently, they asked some of these investors to donate a portion back, ultimately receiving about 5% of the total IOTA token supply, which would ultimately endow the IOTA Foundation, which was officially chartered in Berlin, Germany in November of last year. Flash forward to early 2017, a group of IOTA community members thought it would be a good idea to have a set of resources separate and apart from those donated to the IOTA Foundation to basically seed various projects and other resources for the IOTA community, raising about $200,000 worth of IOTA tokens, or 20 trillion IOTA tokens, which was valued about $200,000 at the time. Today, these tokens have a market value in the tens of millions of dollars and thus have incredible power to propel the IOTA ecosystem for years to come. The IOTA is more than just a cryptocurrency, and as such, the IOTA Foundation envisions itself to be an organization focused on research, development, innovation, and adoption of the IOTA core protocol. I really like this quote from the principal developer and architect of the Linux kernel, Linus Torvald. One of the nice things about open source generally is that everyone has something to contribute to the project. And this is the entire ethos of the Ecosystem Development Fund. It's all about open source software, collaboration, co-creation, and building on each other's work. The IOTA Ecosystem Development Fund will support all projects which go to benefit the broader IOTA community, the entrepreneurs and developers that are building projects around the IOTA core protocol. On this slide, you'll see just some of the noteworthy ecosystem projects going on today. You have Everything Tangle, which is just an incredible YouTube channel that describes the IOTA technology and the use cases it'll enable. IOTA, which is an open source wallet to manage a single wallet or an entire fleet of IoT devices. FogNet, which was the 2018 winner of our Flash Channel Hackathon. FogNet enables devices in resource and bandwidth restricted environments to exchange payment for that bandwidth. You have FogNet, which is just, IOTA Not, which is just a helpful resource to visualize the Tangle. And the Biotosphere, which is a Toronto-based innovation hub dedicated to developing applications built on the IOTA protocol. It's important to note that because the Ecosystem Development Fund the donations that granted to the Ecosystem Development Fund were separate and apart from those of the IOTA Foundation. We are still working with our lawyers to legally establish the fund structure, and all of the projects you see here were developed without any direct financial support from either the IOTA Foundation or the Ecosystem Development Fund. One of the incredible things working for IOTA, apart from the incredible ecosystem burgeoning around the project, is the amazing people I get to work with every single day. The IOTA Foundation is truly an organization just focused on getting real-world adoption of the IOTA core protocol, focusing on research, development, innovation, and industry use cases. We have, on our supervisory board, actually just announced today, the head of Central Europe of Fujitsu just joined, as well as representatives from Volkswagen, Bosch, and other incredible industries. So I will be around all day. Thank you for your attention. If you guys have any questions about IOTA or the distributed ledger technology, the Tangle, which it is based, or the Ecosystem Development Fund, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or send me an email. I'd be happy to speak with you. Thank you.